Welcome to Home Remodeler Toolbox, the podcast dedicated to empowering remodelers and builders to build and grow successful businesses. Join your host, Bob Vance, founder of Home Remodeler SEO, as he brings you industry insights and strategies that will help you build a thriving business, no matter what level you're at in your business. Whether you're a thriving multi-million-dollar business or you're working on building your business from the foundation up, this podcast is your go-to source for industry secrets and actionable strategies that you can implement in your business to get to that next level. So, turn on, tune in, and let's help you build your business foundation one building block at a time.
I'm excited to sit down with someone who brings creativity, rigor, and leadership to our industry. Erin Dougherty, co-owner of Distinctive Design+Build+Remodel in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one of the sharpest voices in professional remodeling today. Erin didn't take the typical path into this field. She started as an English major, then spent a decade in TV production before finding her calling in design and remodeling. And that unique background shows in the way she communicates, in how she leads clients, and in her commitment to doing things the right way. In this episode, Erin talks about the power of certification and credibility, drawing from her own experience as a certified kitchen and bath remodeler and her work in helping develop NARI's Certified Remodeling Designer Program. She explains why NARI members stand out as the cream of the crop and why educating clients early about process, cost, and expectations is crucial to a successful project. You're going to get practical insights, validating truths, and a whole lot of wisdom from Erin. Let's dive in. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast. Today, I've got Erin on the show. Erin, thanks for coming on today. Looking forward to hearing some great insights from you today.
Get the invitation. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. You've obviously built a really successful design, build, remodel firm there in Charlotte, but you weren't always in remodeling. So can you kind of go back and really give us the storyline of early in your childhood and growing up as an adolescent, you had that interest, but somehow ended up in TV production. Maybe kind of back up the story a little bit and start from the beginning for us.
Sure. Yeah, my exposure to the remodeling world started when I was a kid. My dad and my stepmother, they remodeled a number of different homes and properties in California where I grew up. And so as a kid, you just, you're not paying a whole lot of attention. I know my dad was an attorney and, I knew that my stepmother did some amazing things with houses, but I didn't really fully understand what she did. But what I did realize is that she was able to make these dramatic transformations, and she had she had amazing taste, and they would work on, I think the most dramatic one that I remember was a house built in the early 1800s on Russian Hill in San Francisco. And it had been broken up into multiple different apartments. And when they bought it, they kind of restored it to one living environment. So that was pretty traumatic, or not dramatic, dramatic for sure. And then as time went on, they worked on a vineyard property up in Napa Valley, and so I've just over the years had seen her do this amazing work. And I went to college and was an English major kind of by default, because that's what I was good at in high school, and I did well on the AP exam for English. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll be an English major. And I remember at one point, I did, because of what I had been watching my stepmother do, I sort of had an interest in, like, oh, well, there's an architecture program. Maybe I should look into that. And then I realized how you have to be really, really, really good at math. And and it was a long program, and I'm like, I'll just stick with English. So, that sort of morphed into going into advertising copywriting when I got out of school. And then I went back and worked on my master's in mass communication. And that is where I thought, oh, I want to be a newspaper reporter. And, kind of funny because that, legacy media has completely fallen apart and newspapers, are going out of business left and right. But um, so anyway, but I was taking a intro to television news writing course, and the professor basically said, "Look, you've got this English degree. You don't need to be in this class. If you get an internship at one of the TV stations, I'll give you credit for the class." And so I was like, "Well, that sounds great." So I got an internship at KPNX, and that sort of is how I kind of tripped into the TV business. It wasn't really where I thought I was headed, but I spent 10 years in the television news business, worked in Phoenix at KPNX and in Charlotte, and then in Baltimore at WBAL TV, and then ended up coming back and working in Charlotte again before I stayed home and raised my kids. And so, that was just kind of a crazy journey, but and then when my kids went to school, I was like, well, I want to go back to work, but going back into the TV business after all those years, kind of out of it, it had changed so much, and so I needed to reinvent myself. I needed to remodel myself,
There you
and
go.
yeah. So I started working with a general contractor and doing some kind of design work, and um, that is really kind of how I started in the business. Is sort of got my foot in the door that way because it was something I had always had an interest in. Again, going back to watching what my stepmother did and then contemplating architecture school, and then then it just sort of morphed into my now husband needing help in his business with design work. And I had built a couple custom homes for my family with my ex-husband, and had experience on being on that end of it as a client. And so I had familiarity with building. Um, so it just was sort of a natural progression, and here I am, all these years later.
Yeah, quite the long winding story there to get you to, being a co-owner with your husband in this, very successful, design build firm there in Charlotte. What all do you
Yeah.
guys focus on in terms of the services that you offer?
So we are full service. We are what I consider to be sort of a high touch. So when our clients come to us, they start with us, and we walk with them from design and construction through every step of the process. Over the years, my husband, in addition to being a general contractor, um, we got involved with NARI, the National Association of the Remodeling Industry, and that was probably about 13 years ago. And so he had been a general contractor for years, but we kind of really got involved with the certifications that NARI offers. And so he became a certified remodeler, which now after 10 years, he's now a master certified remodeler, and he's a certified remodeling project manager. So he got that certification. And then since I'm sort of self-taught, those certifications were real important to me. And so I became a certified kitchen and bath remodeler. And again, that was through NARI. And then I actually had the privilege, over the last about took about 3 years, but I was invited by Nary National to join a group of about 7 other remodelers, and we developed a new certification for remodeling designers. So it's the Certified Remodeling Design Certification. And, um, that was an incredible learning experience because, we were starting from scratch, putting together a certification for remodeling designers, um, and, I was kind of like, "Well, why are they asking me?" I'm self-taught. And I think part of it was because of my communication background.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm coming to the table with those sorts of skills, but I learned so much from the folks that I worked with to put this certification together, and I'll be forever grateful to NARI for the opportunity to participate in that. So,
Yeah, and I hear those are pretty tough certifications too, that it's not just, just whiz through it, that you gotta really study up and know your subject matter material.
you do. My husband will tell you that the general contractor's exam is a piece of cake compared to the certified remodeler exam. And the reason why is because there are lots of people who come from different walks of life and decide to get their general contractor's license. And typically, what happens is you'll go through a course and they teach you how to take the test and how to flag your books. And then you take your books into the exam and go through and all the places that you've tagged, that's where you look for the answers. So, the difference with the NARI certifications and what makes them so outstanding is that the exams are closed book. Um, the the exam that I took for the certified kitchen and bath remodeler exam, it's a 4-hour closed book exam. So you really, really have to know your stuff
Y
going into it.
yeah.
And so yeah. So
That's
it's
great. Well, and Nary's such a, I mean, their name just speaks really to credibility and trust in the remodeling industry. If you're going to work with a remodeler, you're going to want to work with a remodeler that's certified with the certifications are offered versus just a GC that, is just kind of maybe winging it and hasn't, really gotten any further certification or education or maybe even done very many of these other types of projects that you are probably
yeah,
working on.
I think it's an important distinction for homeowners to really understand that there, there are different calibers of general contractors out there. Remodeling contractors and all of the subcontractors that we work with, they're different animals than the run of the mill contractor. That's it's you're basically performing, surgery. It's like performing surgery on someone's house while they're living in it. And so it's something that in 2008 we lived through that,
Yeah.
survived it. But in '08 they were a lot of new home construction general contractors who were like, "Oh my gosh, new home construction is dead. I'll just start remodeling homes." And they kind of came in, and I'm generalizing, but I had heard stories of them coming in with this square foot mentality. Like, well, I know how much it costs to build a house per square foot, so I'm just going to apply this to remodeling. You absolutely cannot do that because remodeling, every project is different. Existing conditions are different. The location, the accessibility, the everything is different. It's not like building from scratch, which is infinitely easier. So yeah, that's my sort of word of advice to homeowners is go to your local NARI chapter, on their website, they'll have a member directory. And then within that directory, they'll also, most of them, most of the chapters will have the certified remodelers called out on a different page. So that's those, in my opinion. I'm biased, but in my opinion, those are the cream of the crop when it comes to remodelers. And so, that's I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of homeowners taking that as a great way to sort of start your research. If you don't know where to start, start with NARI.
Right, right. I like the analogy you gave about doing surgery on your home because I once read something, where we hold doctors in high regard, high esteem, and most of them earn that through the work, through their education. But the comment was someone finished last in every medical class. When you're graduating as a doctor, someone finished last in that class, so everyone's not created equal. And so, when you get more certifications, or in the medical parlance, you do fellowships and more residencies and things like that. It's the same thing in remodeling. You're getting these certifications, but you're making yourself better. You're improving your skill set, your knowledge, your expertise, and it's going to show in the work and the craftsmanship that you do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that the thing that's a little bit frustrating about our industry is that the barriers to entry are pretty low, and so we talk about sort of a derogatory term, but chuck in a truck. Any guy with with a truck and some tools can call himself a remodeler. Well, be careful. Be real careful because you know, a lot of what makes a great remodeler is years and years of experience. Again, working on all these different projects. And I can't tell you how many times we'll open up the walls and we're like, wow, never saw that before after all the years of doing this. Especially, here in Charlotte and some of the neighborhoods like Myers Park and Eastover, these homes that were built in the 1920s and 30s. You start opening up those walls, you really need to make sure that you've got an experienced remodeler working on your home.
Right, right. Yeah, I remember, I might have shared this story before, but when I was back doing some remodeling and custom home development, we got a referral to do a full home renovation on a house, and they end up going with a cheaper alternative, just, that race to the bottom in pricing that we all subjected to at some point in time in our lives. And it turns out, the GC that they hired wasn't licensed, didn't really know anything about him, but, he came in at the right price, evidently. And they found him living in their home and found a crack pipe and, like just had to kick this guy out. And, that he hadn't done work for the money, that he paid. It was kind of a nightmare for him. I heard about the story from the friend that referred him, and then they said, would you be willing to come back in here? And I was like, nope, not at this point. I don't know what this guy's done, and we're just not gonna be responsible for that. And that's what you get when you get these run of the mill GCs and people that aren't certified or are not really respecting the industry, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, yeah,
Def
always.
definitely in our business, you get what you pay for. And if you know yeah, it's and I understand. Look, from a homeowner standpoint, again, coming from my background and not being in this business, from the very beginning, and also building my own custom homes, it's it's overwhelming to know who to trust and to know who to pick. And um, so I get it. But that's again where I just say, you know, if you're working with a organization like NARI, we have ethics and standards. As a matter of fact, I'm on the board right now. I'm the president of our local chapter, and I have been on the board for over 10 years. And we take the vetting process for our members real seriously. It's not a pay to play organization. And so we have denied some requests for membership because we either through the grapevine have heard that this person doesn't do great work or stand behind their work, or they just don't check all the boxes that we need checked.
Yeah.
But our members, they have ethical standards that they're expected to uphold. So,
Right.
again, I'm gonna plug Nary as much as I can because
Well, you've got a
I'm a
great chapter there in Charlotte, a strong chapter, fun group. I've heard, for younger remodelers, ones that might want to join a great association like NARI and just really advance their expertise. What would you recommend to them in terms of joining an association, or how to go about that, or even why that's important for their company, for their reputation, for their career?
Well, I'll just tell you, my story, which was, I didn't know much about Nary, and the only reason that I wanted to join 13 years ago or whatever it was that they had the Remodeler of the Year awards, and I wanted to enter some of our projects in that, and I was like, that's really the only reason I want to join this organization. So I did, and we won some awards, and I was like, "Oh, this is kinda cool." And then the executive director at that time kept encouraging us to come to the dinner meetings and to get involved in one thing after another, and I was like, "Oh." And so, we did. We started going to meetings, and we started meeting vendors and other remodelers, that, who and again, our chapter, we've got an amazing chapter where we really have the attitude that, look, there's plenty of quality work in Charlotte, and let's work together and not hold our secrets so close, and let's collaborate and try to all work together to just elevate the remodeling industry in Charlotte. And so once I sort of understood the value of networking with other remodelers, because again, my goal was to win awards so that I could, show homeowners, look, we're award winning. But really, the fruit that grew out of our involvement was the things that I've talked about, the opportunities to network not only with remodelers here in Charlotte who've become great friends and mentors, but also being invited to, work on that national project with the certified remodeler, um, the CRD, and then be able to out of that group, the people who were working on that project for 3 years, we now at any time, if we have a text chain, and if there's any question about our business, or hey, do you have a standard operating procedure for XYZ? We'll just shoot it to each other. And so it has become this sort of mastermind for remodelers, and we've become great friends and great resources for each other's businesses. And so that's what I would say to the young guys who are like, why do I want to join this organization? Because the more you put into it, I promise you will get so much more out of it than you ever imagined. Trust me. I mean, that's all I can say is just
Yeah.
join and get involved, and things will come your way that you never expected.
Right, right. Well, and I think the point you made about you're in a group of other remodelers. You're all sharing quote unquote secrets. You're just sharing what's going on with your business or what's going on in your particular market. You're like you said earlier, there's plenty of work to go around. You're not going to win every job no matter what. There's always going to be people that you don't mesh with, or they want a different thing or a different price, whatever. But if you're collaborating, with these other remodeling owners, you're, like you said, you can only get better from doing that. I have a whole group of digital marketing agency owners that I network with as well, and just the amount of information that we share with each other, I could tell you I would never be where I am today without the network that I've developed. And I think that most business owners that have those networks, like the Nary network, you can probably say the same thing. There's no way that you would be as successful as you are today without having that network, that support, that whole infrastructure that is available to you for any circumstance, any problem, whether it be ethics or legal or financial, um, or just on the job stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and when I speak to homeowners, I mean, that's one of the first things I ask is, who else are you talking to? And if and my husband's like, "I can't believe you asked that question." I'm like, "Well, why not?" Because if they're talking to Chuck in a truck and we're at a completely different level, then, we're not gonna get anywhere. But beyond that, if they're working with another NARI contractor, I'm gonna tell them, "Look, whoever you go with, you're gonna be in great hands. It's just a matter of, not everybody's processes is exactly the same, and you're not gonna maybe click with, one company. You might have a better relationship with another. So, but as long as it's a NARI contractor, what I consider to be my peers, I think you'll be in great hands. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Coming from TV production, you're obviously very skilled in communications. Do you find yourself educating homeowners more so these days when it comes to budget and then soaring prices and inflation that we've dealt with, things like that? How much emphasis do you put on education with homeowners?
let's say it's these days. I would say it's just been from the beginning, ever since I got involved, and sort of took over communication for our company is, I wanted to make sure that, we had documents that we could, back in the day, you would send PDFs and, now a lot of that information can be on the website. Um, One of the things that I put together in the last few years is a cost guide to really try to help homeowners. Again, every project's going to be different, but at least we can get some realistic ranges out there that we're talking about for, let's say, a kitchen remodel, a bathroom remodel, a home addition, that sort of thing, and give them a range of pricing for projects that are real projects that have been built here in Charlotte. I think that's the mistake, is some people might put that, request into Google. How much does it cost to remodel in Charlotte, North Carolina? Well, it depends. Who are you talking to? What level of are you working with a design build firm? What level of contractor? What we kind of talked about before. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of education that has to go into costs, our process, um, you know, the expectations, sort of that, what we call sort of the roller coaster ride of remodeling, especially for people who are living in their homes while it's happening. There's this, up and down and excitement when demo's done and it's like fresh and new, and then things slow down because the electrician's got to go through there and the plumber, and it's like, what's happening? It's taking so long. And so just sort of educating them, that about the process, and setting expectations that it's really what it boils down to,
Yeah.
is it's gonna cost more and it's gonna take longer than you expect, but here are the reasons why.
Right, that's almost universal. It's gonna cost more
Yeah,
and take longer, right?
yeah.
Do you
But what we try to do is show why, and we are big believers in, schedules and, that's part of our contract with a big caveat that, look, there are things we can't control, but this is our goal, and so people, when the project starts, they've got that schedule and they're like, okay, I can see how this is all gonna, play out. And if there are changes to the schedule, we make those adjustments.
Right. Do you have, like a scheduling cadence, with homeowners? Once you start a project, do every couple weeks, are you letting them know what's going on or what's coming up? Just something to keep them more informed so that they're not always asking questions, or you don't have to, you're already kind of out in front of, like, maybe delays or things like that that you have to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, it's so a little bit different with us because, my husband is on every job. So, he is the face of our company, during construction. And so there's familiarity, our clients have his cell phone number. And so any question that comes up, and he, at the end of every week, typically is kind of given them, if he hasn't spoken to them in person, which 9 times out of 10, he's seen them on the job site and they've had a conversation. But on Friday, if he has, for whatever reason, not had a conversation about what's coming up next week, then he'll send them a little message and say, just a reminder, XYZ is going to be happening. Or, we've had a delay and, we're gonna be out another several days. So that communication, it's not real formal because again, he, as the owner of the company, he's also, the project manager and on-site superintendent. So, that's we that's part of the reason I think people, if you were to read our testimonials, it's all about, how well we take care of our clients. And it's because it's us, it's our company,
Yeah.
and it's not passed on to a junior project manager, or, we don't have layers of management. So I think that gives clients a lot of peace of mind that, they're speaking directly to the owners of the company and they have access. It's that access piece, I think, that gives people a lot of comfort.
Right, right. Well, your passion for your company, for what you're doing in remodeling, obviously shows up in that. And I think you said it, best when you said setting expectations. If you set expectations, then and if you can, kind of keep in line with those, then everyone's happy. It's when you don't set those expectations, you don't communicate. That's when people are frustrated because there's a lot of delays with supply chain, especially during the COVID years. The supply chains were wrecked, and tariffs and things like that. Now, like, just things are backing up, and if you can set those expectations, people are fine with it. But if you don't set them, then you give them the chance to voice it first, and now you're being reactive instead of proactive.
Absolutely. And it also helps that the subcontractors and team members, we have a small circle guys that we've worked with for years, and so we have a tremendous level of trust that, if they're going and working on our projects, and Vince happens to not be there, he's, picking up materials or he's at another job site, that those subcontractors are going to take as much care, and concern for our clients as we would because we've worked with them for so long. So,
Right, right. Speaking of, I guess keeping with the theme of communication, one of the concepts that comes up a lot is design and construction, and the fact that they're not really separate. Obviously, you do design first. Maybe you even have a design contract, and then if they want to move forward, then they go into a construction contract. But design and construction are they need to be in harmony together, and I don't think that's something that all remodelers or design build firms, builders are really pay attention to, and it's something that you guys put a lot of emphasis on, right?
we absolutely do. Obviously, because we're married. So the downside of that is, we're talking about work at 10 o'clock at night, you know, about, you know, there doesn't seem to be this work life balance, it's always on. But
Life of
So,
a business owner and entrepreneur. Always
yeah,
on.
and being married to your business partner, so, but, yeah, so that was a big part of, what all of us, when we were developing the certified remodeling designer program, was really helping, especially, designers who maybe have gone to design school, um, but they haven't worked in remodeling, and helping them really, making sure that they really understand the importance of engaging the production team and the builder during design. You can't be designing in a vacuum, and that also applies to your vendors, and what materials you're specifying, and making sure that you're communicating with your vendors if you have any questions about, the suitability, durability, the install for any products. So that's not taught in design school. A lot of designers come out and their focus has been on commercial projects, and, focusing on putting a plan together, and they don't have any communication with the guys who are going to build it, or the girls who are going to build it down the road. So they do design in a vacuum. In remodeling, you can't do that. You've really got to make sure that, and when we work with outside designers, we like to make sure that those designers are bringing us to the table really early on in the process, so that a builder is looking at it, and that goes for our architects as well. Bring us to the table early, because we may be seeing things from a general contractor standpoint, and from a buildability standpoint, that you're not thinking about. And on top of all of that, having a real, you know, conversation about costs early on, and not just designing something with with without an understanding of what the cost consequences are going to be for taking down that wall, or whatever the situation is that could cause, costs to spiral. So,
Right, right. Have you worked on any projects recently that you really felt came together extremely well? Design and construction really met up, and just really created a beautiful final product. A dream renovation, dream home for your client. Anything that stands out for you?
yeah, we finished up a project earlier this year that it makes me laugh, because the homeowner, she's an attorney, and she had reached out just for the master bathroom remodel. And so I went and talked to her about that, and we decided we'd put a plan together. And as we had put the plan together, and my husband and I were back going over the um, you know, construction proposal for the design, they the homeowners had this window company, I think, came like right before we did, and they were in the house while we were there, and I'm like, well, this is kind of strange. But anyway, the window guys left, and I said to the homeowner, I'm like, "What are you doing? Are you thinking about replacing your windows?" And, "Yeah, yeah, we're thinking about replacing our windows, and maybe our siding." And I said, "Well, we do all of that." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Look, rather than putting replacement windows in, if you're going to be replacing all of your masonite siding with James Hardy, siding, fiber cement siding that's going to be durable, you want to stay in this house for the next 25, 30 years. If you're going to do that, let's put new construction windows in, and not, because when you put replacement windows in, you end up with less glass than you would with a new construction window. And if you're taking all the siding off, that's the perfect time to put new construction windows in, make sure everything is flashed properly and tight, from a building envelope standpoint." And so master bathroom morphed into, okay, well, let's do the windows and the siding. And by the way, can you like make our deck bigger? Oh, and I really want a screen porch. I was like, we can do all that. And you
Yeah.
got it.
Yes is
And
the answer.
yes, yes is the answer. And you've got the right people to walk you through all of this. And so it makes me wonder, what do I need to change on our website to make sure people know that we're not just kitchens and baths, but um, I think it's pretty clear. But for
Yeah.
whatever reason, she didn't connect the dots.
Right.
And I probably wouldn't have known had the window company not been there with their sales guys there. So the project turned out beautiful. The screen porch, we put in a product called Easy Breeze. I don't know if you've heard about Easy Breeze windows.
I have not,
They
no.
are Yeah, it's a real cool, product where you have these panels that have this, thick plastic windows that are but there's really clear plastic, but you can take those panels out and then it becomes screens. And so in our climate, they use that room all year because we also put in a vent-free vent-free fireplace. And so they've got a TV out there and they overlook their backyard is like a bird sanctuary. They've spent the last 25 years, making it real hospitable to birds, and it's gorgeous back there. And so that screen porch has become, one of the favorite places if you want to call it inside the house, in the whole
Yeah,
house.
yeah. It almost is a combination of inside the house, but also outdoor living, but not quite the outdoor living room that we talk about and see a lot of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm jealous of the space because it's absolutely beautiful. And we were lucky enough that they decided to have an open house and invite all their friends and neighbors, and they're like, "We want you there." So and
Stock up on business cards.
yeah, yeah, stuck up in business cards, and it was great. So, and we got to enjoy the space and see, the fruits of our labor, literally, um,
Yeah.
you know, being put to good use. So,
Oh, that's great.
and
That's great.
a couple people snuck up to the master bathroom to take a look at it, but that wasn't the main show.
Right, right. Probably not gonna troop the whole party through their bedroom up to the bathroom. Well, I know you guys have had a really successful year this year. What's on tap for Distinctive Design Build Remodel? What's 2026 gonna look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be in great shape. Even with the choppy economy over the last several months, and I think there's been some uncertainty for homeowners. So I will say it has taken a little bit longer to get people off of the starting line in terms of committing to design and then committing to construction. They're not going as fast as they were, starting in 2020 and the last few years. So, um, but yeah, I mean, we've got several projects lined up. We're in the middle of several right now, and we've got some stacked up for January. So I think we'll be in good shape.
Awesome, awesome. Well, that sounds good. Well, I'm excited to hear about your year next year. What new projects that you guys get started on? If you get involved in any more certification creation processes there with NARI, I think you're stepping down as the NARI Charlotte president this coming year, right?
No, I'm president for 25 and 2026, and
Oh,
then
okay, okay.
and it's really not stepping down because then you end up being chairman of the board, and then you pass president. So they never let you go.
Right, once
You know,
they get their claws in you.
that's right. Right. No, but it's all good. I am incredibly thankful for our local chapter and all the friends and colleagues that we've met through the organization. So
Yeah, fantastic organization. I can't say enough about NAIR. I love working with everyone that I work with there on the national committee and so forth. So yeah, obviously, we've talked a lot about NAIR. Hopefully, folks listening to the show today, if they're not in NAIR, they give it a look, give it some consideration, and see where it might help them take their career as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's some markets that don't have chapters, but I would still encourage people to engage with national, because there are many, many educational programs. These certifications, you don't have to be in a local chapter to earn a certification, and you can still set yourself apart in your local market, and make those connections on the national scene. So
Yeah, yeah, and they've got a forum where, everyone can get in there, share ideas, ask questions. So even if there's not a local chapter, I mean, like here in Denver, we don't have one, or else I'd be a part of a local chapter here. But there's always people to reach out to and get that help, get that advice, the guidance that you need. So certainly something to always consider for folks looking to advance their career and really build more brand recognition and credibility for the remodeling company.
yeah, and I mean, look, uh, us old folks, we know we need that next generation to really get excited about what we do and get involved. And I know National has some initiatives, and we have initiatives here locally to sort of engage the next generation of skilled trades. College isn't for everybody. So my husband did go to college. I got my English major. I'm not using it now. So
Right, right.
there are lots of opportunities, and I just would encourage young people to remodeling is again, like what I saw my stepmother doing. If you actually can get close enough to see that going on, I think you'll be pretty impressed and be like, wow, that's something I'd like to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's some good parting wisdom for our audience here. Thanks for sharing that, Erin. Thanks for being on our podcast here as well. You've been a great guest, some great info, some great insights, and really glad that you were on and be able to share your story with us.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much.
No, not at all. All great info. All great info. Well, thanks for being on again, Erin, and to all of our audience out there. Thanks for turning on and tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast, and we will look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Hey, if you liked our podcast, join the remodeling community and hit subscribe. We would love to hear from you, so be sure to share your thoughts on what you might want to hear about in future episodes. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit homeremodellerseo.com and check out our services that can help build your foundation for success. Thanks for tuning in to the Home Remodeler Toolbox podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.